At the local level, a school board appoints a superintendent who hires principals and vice principals. The principal hires teachers. Schools are largely funded by local property taxes. At the state level, there is a Department of Education. This is ran by a state superintendent who is appointed by the governor. The governor is elected by the people. There is also a state board of education, and they determine how much funding goes to the local level. At the federal level, the president appoints the Secretary of Education. The current Secretary of Education is Betsy DeVos. She controls how much federal funding goes to each individual state. According to Walden University, despite the lack of direct authority over schools, the Secretary of Education has the power to influence legislature as it pertains to education. The most recent example is the adoption of Common Core. This is important to students today. Most students are in school for 12 years, which is 3 terms. That is potentially 3 different presidents and could be 3 different secretaries of education. I plan on telling my students that when they get old enough to vote, make sure you look at the plan for education for each politician. Also, I would tell my students that it is okay to ask their parents about the Secretary of Education and make sure the parents know that they are also voting for the Secretary of Education in a sense. Even when voting for governor, it is important to know the educational standpoint of each politician. We use a lot of current trends in EDEL 100. Tori and I made maker kits that are designed to get students into a more hands-on learning environment. Tori and I made 4 maker kits. Each kit was tied to a children's book and YouTube video to tie technology into the lesson. Making these kits also gave us practice on making a canvas. We used the skills in making a canvas for a flipped lesson. I made a canvas over diving deeper into the story of Little Red Riding Hood. On Mondays, we would have a flipped lesson. Flipped lessons were used to get future teachers comfortable with the new trend of e-learning days. We got hands-on practice as to what an online lesson is supposed to look like. What I learned most about the flip lesson is how we would do a lesson on Monday and then go into a discussion about the flip lesson on Wednesday. Padlet was also a new trend I learned in EDO 100. We would all post our ideas on the Padlet and discuss what everyone put. My favorite Padlet was the one we did on diversity in education. I liked it most because it was a subject I wasn't familiar with. All my teachers were white growing up, and so it was nice to learn about how diverse education environments are helpful for the students. It is important for teachers to keep up with current trends. The world is changing, so we should change how education is to fit the needs of society. Education doesn't have to look the same as it did 50 years ago. Self-reflection was probably the most useful thing I did in EDO 100. During the self-reflection, I sat down and thought about what I could improve on as an educator. It helped me realize what I was doing well and what I could improve on. When I post my self-reflections, Kate Shively gives me feedback. This helps me improve my technique tremendously. I used to use a lot of vocal fillers when I talk, but I'm working on improving that. The self-reflections were also a time to work on branching out and trying out new ideas. I would ask Professor Shively what she thought about a maker kit, doing it a different way, and I would get feedback on it. At each of the maker kits Tori and I have done, we have had a self-reflection spot for our students. They would talk about how the lesson went in their opinion and how they think they could improve. This lets the student have a voice and say what they feel went right or wrong with the lesson.